right, what's good? Episode 62. Everybody's here now. Last two was just me and Chad, but
sorry, guys.
We're living and breathing. Apologies are never needed. We have been super consistent, and that's all I can ask for. All right. So we got 3 articles this week. I know Caleb didn't post anything, but I'm sure he's ready to share thoughts. Chad, I'm going to go ahead and let you start off with yours if you want to run through it, what it's about. Tell us what you're thinking or what was going through your mind.
Sure. I mean, this has been a big story as of late. John Allen Chow, a missionary from the United States, travels to this very remote island off the coast of India. And there's like a chain of islands there with a few different tribes. Some of them are contacted, some of them are not contacted. And the Indian government has laws protecting these people from being contacted. You're not allowed to go to the island. You're not allowed to talk to the natives. You're not allowed to take pictures even. They just don't want anybody going.
These people could get sick.
Island. Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the concerns is they obviously have no immunity from.
Right.
I mean, they genuinely are an uncontacted tribe. So we would probably wipe them out. So this guy, John Allen Chow, is aware of this group of people, and he's aware that they're uncontacted, and he's a missionary from the United States, and he goes there. He pays off a bunch of these Indian fishermen to drop him off on the island, and they kill him. The natives kill him.
Surprise!
They just lob a bunch of arrows into his chest.
Yeah.
And he's dead. And it's very bizarre.
Right, and the first thing is, I'd love to know why he made this decision, knowing of the danger. And I can't help but think that, yes, obviously this guy was very motivated and was passionate about spreading his religion, and that's fine. That's awesome. Good for him. But it feels like he was a little adventure seeking, right? Like, which is also fine. I feel like that's. You know, you can be a missionary, but also like want to like seek adventure and challenges, right? Like that's probably what it was.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It was actually not the one article, because I was reading a bit more about this guy, because I was just fascinated. And yeah, he was like a big fan of Robinson. What's that?
Crusoe. Yeah.
Crusoe growing up, and like was a known fan of adventure. So it seems like this was just some weird intersectionality between his missionary Christian faith and his adventure seeking. Unfortunately, though, he got killed. He was keeping a diary.
This is obviously right.
So he gets there the first day.
I did hear about his diary. Go ahead.
Let's see. Okay, so it says the second day he kayaked to the island and tried to offer the tribe small gifts: fish, scissors, cord, and safety pins. A man in white with a crown, possibly made of flowers, shouted at him. He responded by singing worship songs and hymns, and the tribe fell silent. A juvenile fired an arrow at him, piercing his waterproof Bible, so he fled on foot through the mangroves. Lord, is this island, Satan's last stronghold, where none have heard or even had the chance to hear your name, he wrote. So he had gotten shot the day before.
Dude's
he got shot
passionate,
at with
man.
an arrow.
Yeah.
Like,
He's passionate.
He must have had somewhat of a death wish as well. Come on. No.
Right. And that's what I'm saying when you're a little adventure seeking. What do you think this is? Like, which, by the way, it's not a big, like, I really don't
leave these people alone.
Well, that's true. And also, another thing, I heard that this is what someone I work with told me. So, grain of salt. I need to look this up. But apparently, there's some Christian groups that are calling for, like, the prosecution of the Singhalese people. The North Singhalese people from murdering.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know? And it's like, there's no question nobody wants anybody to die. Come on, obviously. But, you know the history of the tribe, you know what it is, and you know how many people they've killed over the years. They have.
Oh, yeah.
So you know what you're getting into. And when you have a group of people on an island that don't ask for you to come, only wish for you to stay away, and you come anyways, I'm not sure I know what to say.
And he starts just shouting, Jesus loves you. Like, these people, they don't know your language.
You're shouting what fascinates me.
Shouting gibberish at them. They don't understand what you're saying.
Right. So that's what actually fascinates me about this whole
It's just
thing. I understand the
bizarre,
challenge.
man.
I understand. Like, if some person told me I'm about to be a missionary, these people speak the same language as us, but they're totally different. It's going to be hard. It's, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be an uphill battle. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. But when you're literally walking into a situation where you can't even communicate at all, I don't know what makes you think this is a challenge that you can complete. I'm not kidding. Like,
Oh.
on any level, did he think that? Like, did he think there was going to be some glory if he did? I don't get it. I don't
Yeah,
get it.
I kind of got a bit of an impression that he had a little bit of a martyr fetish. Um,
Well, for sure. Yeah. Because you
he
wouldn't make that
definitely,
decision to go to
well,
an island where you might die. Go ahead.
he's writing and he says, "I don't want to die. Like,
I know.
Lord,
I
please
saw that.
protect me." But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. This guy's it's just interesting. Very
You
interesting.
gotta know.
Man's got his convictions, though, clearly.
And I can respect that. I absolutely can. You just gotta know.
Gotta
Like,
just leave these people alone.
now look, his family said they forgive the tribe. Good for
They
them.
did say that. That's right.
The people who are, and I always emphasize this, especially on this pod, the people who are calling for like prosecution. This is all fringe people. This isn't like normal people. So it's not like there's a whole bunch of people that are like prosecute them. Man, yeah,
Josh
always
Allen,
fascinates me why
Allen Chow.
why people make the decisions they do when you're staring at something that is so just difficult. I don't know, man.
Do you feel like that's like intrinsically a human kind of thing? Wandering into the unknown. I wonder how much of that also plays a factor into something like that. Because, earlier I was saying to Cyril, this is kind of, to me, one of the problems of, religion. But the more and more I think about it, the more I think, it's not necessarily religion. The example I used to Cyril is I said it'd be more noble to die trying to land on Mars or developing science than it is to go to this island to be killed. But how much difference really is it? It's some level of zealot nature that we have as humans to find out the unknown, right?
I mean, of course.
And I wonder how much that plays a factor when you have this situation where you're bolstered by the fact that people are willing to support you in your endeavor, and added with the idea of the unknown and the level
And
of
in this
risk.
case, the belief in the divinity.
Well, I mean, some might argue that the stuff that we do in science, when it's unproven, you're doing something and potentially putting your life at risk for something we have no idea about. You could say the same thing for people being flung off into space. People firmly believe that once you cross, what is the radiation belt, right? The Van Allen's radiation belt, that you would just die in space. And people strap themselves to a rocket. I use that kind of tongue in cheek, right? They did a ton of work to try to make it as safe as possible.
Well, they more or less did strap themselves to the rocket, though.
Well, I guess that's my point, right? So initially my reaction was criticizing him because it's from a religious basis, but then at the same time, that's kind of also what makes humans humans. So how much can I really fault him for that? That's what I struggle with.
But
Yeah,
you're
but
not,
here's the
you're
thing:
not, you're not venturing into the unknown. So, I mean, go ahead, Chad.
if he takes a moment, though, just to think about what he's doing, because he must know that there's a very good chance that if he infects these people, he could wipe out most of them. So if his intentions are good, that he wants to save these people, surely he wouldn't put himself in a position where he could intentionally infect their whole tribe with diseases they don't have immunity for.
I do hate to say that, because he is such a religious zealot. Is that a negative term? I don't want to be used negatively, but because he's so like fervent about his like beliefs.
Oh, yeah, deep passions. Yeah.
Maybe he not believe so much the microbiology of things. So,
well, I think, I mean, let's be fair, right? We were raised Baptist, pretty hardcore, I would say.
Of course.
The thought process there is, if it happens, it is God's will. That's the excuse. Whether or not science says one thing or another, that's kind of the justification.
You could even say, I understand that this is how these things happen, but it's still God's will. So,
that's how you justify it. And that, to me,
that's where it gets dangerous.
The tiny difference between science and religion is that religion, you're basing it off of this faith, this idea that if it is, it is. If it was meant to be. In science, it's very much like, we're going to do this, but hopefully we have some evidence to prove one way or another why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's where I get stuck for me.
Okay,
Well,
that
my-
tiny difference though is a pretty large one in my mind. But
It's large for the end result.
literally
right?
just making claims without even attempting to prove anything is not in the same realm as
No, but
you
for
know.
me, if you calculate that into as well, you're adding in the human factor of obviously we make mistakes and we're human, but
Right.
going into the unknown, going in and adventuring into that's why people climbed Mount Everest. That's why people flew over the ocean. That's why people strapped themselves to a rocket ship. So that part I feel like I can't fault a human for being a human. Yeah.
Just being curious.
Yeah. Listen, one of my all-time historical heroes, Teddy Roosevelt, just went up the fucking Amazon River just because he felt like doing it, because he wanted to know what the hell was up there.
The Amazon? What? Good for
Yeah,
him.
after he was president, he went on this long expedition and documented tons of animals, plants, species, all sorts of stuff.
That sounds like he had some white privilege. Okay, he could just travel on vacation. Okay, anyways.
It's
Well,
funny you say that.
to some degree, if that didn't happen, you wouldn't have the knowledge that you have now, right?
Sure. You gain a lot of wisdom by doing stuff like that. Absolutely.
You do, even if it's just one person and they have white privilege.
Of
You
course.
at least gain
No,
knowledge
right.
for
Jokes for days. Jokes
for
for days. Go ahead, Chad.
eternity. Sorry.
Go ahead. Chad.
Well, just a quick aside. I saw this interview with Obama where he said Roosevelt was one of his favorite presidents, and there were
Good.
times when Roosevelt would disappear into Yellowstone National Park, and nobody could get a hold of him.
Yeah.
During his presidency, he would just disappear and like go on these nature. He would just like go.
Cool guy, man.
Like that's insane.
That's cool.
Like some yeah,
Plus, in
obviously.
the
but,
late
like,
1800s, early 1900s, like a lot of that is still like just not really explored that much.
for
That's
sure.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then war breaks out and nobody can get a hold
Well,
of
then
Teddy
it gets
Roosevelt.
tough.
in
I
the
know
middle
what you were
of
alluding to.
Yellowstone.
Right. No, I got it.
Well,
I just
if
thought
I
that
was
was
Teddy
incredible.
Roosevelt, I would be arguing, well, that's why I got a VP.
There you go.
Until I come back, he's in charge.
No,
Not
he
how
obviously
that was-
not how
yeah.
that works until the 25th Amendment, but there you go.
Well, you get my point.
There you go. All right. Well, shall we push
All right,
on then here?
let's change gears into getting triggered. Let's do it.
Let's
Oh,
trigger
Jesus.
away. Oh, are you talking Ellen Pompeo?
Oh, sure.
Ellen Pompeo.
Okay, so I don't even remember how I walked into this article, but don't hate me for
Yahoo.
using Yahoo. It happens. Come on.
You got
man.
clickbaited, son.
Listen, sometimes I gotta keep up with the.
You got clickbaited, dude.
Sometimes I gotta keep up with the Baghdashians. Okay, it happens. All right.
Oh god.
So, keeping up with the Ellen Pompeos, I read this article, and I read this article, and I get right before I explain a little bit of it because I need to, but I almost feel like I want to understand where she's coming from, right? Like you're trying to be inclusive, right? You're trying your best. You think that but when you end up on a horse that's about 40 feet high and you're farting into mason jars and sniffing them, it gets really tough for me when you take yourself so seriously about it and you don't put any realistic slant to it. Okay.
So let me ask you then.
When
I'm
we
gonna
have a
challenge you on that
population
premise.
that is not okay, go ahead.
What's the realistic slant? What is that to you?
The realistic slant is okay. You want to do this? You want us to be the diversity that we are? What are the percentages of each type of person in America? Okay, we can't just say, oh, because there's one type of person that dominates our culture, we cannot just say that type of person. Let's say they're at 70% of the population. We're just going to say, oh, because you're the dominant culture and you get all the breaks, you now have to split everything, like as far as like roles and jobs and just being a part of society 50-50. Does that make sense to you? Like, so, and let's use this example, the Ellen Pompeo example from this article, which I need to explain and I will in a second. But she walks in, right? And she says, I didn't see enough color. Okay. And I think at some point, and I don't want to misquote her. Let me know if I am. At some point, I think she said it needs to be like 50-50, or even if she didn't, she still made it seem like that there needs to be this, like, I don't know, just this sacrificing of common sense and the actual numbers for this idea of including everybody who's like disadvantaged. Don't the numbers need to look like the numbers that actually exist? That's all I'm trying to say. I don't know. It's just
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but
yeah.
I think to her point, what she's trying to say, and I think
Go ahead.
to be fair, what she's saying is that we as white people are in a position where we can try to affect some change like that. Do
And
I
I
agree
get
with
that.
her? No, I don't personally, because I value competency over everything else. If you're an idiot and you can't do something, then you
Yes,
shouldn't
but
be
I
given a
also
job.
but I also know we don't live in a meritocracy, and that's where I know where she's coming from. We don't. We do not.
Well, and again, I think
not-
that's what she's
yeah.
trying to say, and I
Right,
think
and I
to be
we all
fair
get
to
that.
you,
Go ahead.
I think the point she's trying to make is that we need to be more inclusive. Now, I agree
Fine.
with her, but being inclusive isn't by setting a standard saying there needs to be X amount of this people in this room. I think
Right.
that standard is the equality of opportunity, which I believe
Right.
we've talked about this ad nauseum, but we all
Right.
believe that is a fundamental thing that we need to work on as a civilization, especially here in America. But
And I can't help but always think about that whenever we have these conversations about this kind of stuff, and this kind of stuff comes up. It always comes back to like, look, do we need to fix problems? We do. Does fixing problems in this realm start with giving every single person the same equality of outcome, or like every single person who is at a later stage in life, like the same equal everything? That's ridiculous. It
Right.
starts with investing in children. Like if you really want to change communities, then make sure every child is invested in, regardless of what they look like or where they come from. And then you'll start building a society that's better for the future. These things don't happen overnight. You can't snap your fingers and act like all these people that didn't get the education they were supposed to, or didn't get the parental attention they needed to, all of a sudden just be, everyone is now the same and it'll be fine. That's not how it works. You need to start by investing in the future. And you also need to understand that right now things are the way they are. We can help people get where they need to going, where they want to be going. And we do in a lot of ways, but come on, it's not going to be what you need it to be until you can actually go to an inner city school and say, this is the same as a suburban school. You cannot do that. So come on. Start there. I'm sick of this. Yeah.
She just came off as.
Explain this article real quick too.
Oh, sure.
So basically,
Yeah, I guess we didn't. Go
yeah,
ahead.
basically she does this Vanity Fair thing where like it's her and two colored women, talking to, I don't even know who was interviewing them. So it's her, she's white, two black women, right? And she just starts commenting on how when she walked into the room, she didn't see enough color. Hang on, Oh, and this is where Caleb's not wrong, and I agree with her. She says, as Caucasian people, it's our job, it's our task, it's our responsibility to make sure we speak up in every single room we walk into. It's our job. But then she says it's our job because we created the problem. Okay. Can you agree with that part of the sentence, Caleb? I don't know if I can. It's our job because we created the problem.
It's difficult, right? Because
a lot
you're
of
talking
grouping
about
there.
slavery, you're talking about
Okay, but
all sorts of different things, right? So if you're my argument would be is if you're picking and choosing from our country, who, if we're being fair, not even 60 years ago, 70 years ago, we still had racial issues, like
were
really
awful.
deep, segregated racial issues. I can't
We're
really
human
fault
beings
you for
with
that.
shit.
If you're talking about the entire course of humanity, though, I'm not sure you have a really big case.
I don't see any way forward in unifying any sort of populace, especially if that populace is diverse, if you just blame people for things that they didn't do in the past.
Right.
I don't see any help in that. I understand if you're trying to get everyone to come together now and say, hey, as we take steps forward, we need to be in lockstep. We need to be this, this, and this. Okay, work towards that. I'm about it. But I don't know that you're going to be as unifying as you could have been if it starts with, well, you need to pay us reparations for what you did. It's like,
well,
what?
I don't think to be fair, right?
Oh, no, she is not saying that. That's
Okay,
an extreme fringe.
It is.
Right, and to your point, even just, you can't even start a conversation with saying like, you have to apologize for me for what you did if someone's referencing like slavery. Come on, yo.
I think
Talk to that person.
I read a
Don't
stat.
talk-
And I don't know how accurate this is, but I think it's only 5 to 6% of Americans actually had ancestors that owned slaves in this country.
Sure.
Because you have to remember that the people that owned
moot
slaves
point
were
anyways.
rich people. They were
Oh,
rich.
sure,
fucking
right.
people. It wasn't
Oh,
like
yeah, there's a lot of
every
poor
single-
white people.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of poor white people.
There's always been poor white people. Sure.
So collectively, what I take offense to and what I don't like is the collectivist idea that a group must be punished for things that technically
so
crimes they
stupid,
never
yeah.
committed.
So
To me, at the end
stupid,
of the day, it's about working on us as a culture and as a country for equality of opportunity, and also to realize at the same time that competency is what's most important.
Mhm.
There's a reason why guys like me don't play in the NBA. It's not fun to watch, right?
Sports is a bastion for pure meritocracy. It sure is.
Yeah, and
by the way-
and that's why I don't hold people like Le'Veon Bell in.
I don't either. It's ridiculous.
Do you, buddy? You're only going to get paid 3 times in your
value
career.
until you're a free agent, for sure.
Right.
But also, by the way, I'm going to say because of that fact, that's why the kneeling and everything has happened, because you're seeing a pure meritocracy, which means that people who are disadvantaged, people who otherwise would have been disadvantaged in society, aren't now, and now they have a platform. They can, and because all of these disadvantaged people are now so successful, you're going to get a few of them that look behind them and say, well, what about my community? My community looks like shit. What's the deal here? And so whether you agree with it or not, because it's a pure meritocracy, it's fascinating to see that turmoil bubble up because it's a meritocracy. So we're patting them on the back for being one, but at the same time, because it is one in a society where we don't have that everywhere yet, you see things bubble to the surface. It's fascinating. Fascinating. But anyways, let's go through some of these tweets and let's about this, because there's some tweets here at the end of the article.
Oh yeah, I saw
Fascinated and
those.
let's get this. Okay, just really quickly in the background, I am taping in Buffalo, New York, and the Sabres just scored because I heard someone scream.
They actually won in overtime again, Cyril.
Did they? Oh, those savages! They're
in
playing so
overtime.
well.
They won.
Oh,
3
I'm
on
loving
3. No shootout, but that would be, if I'm not mistaken, that's a 10-game win streak for the Sabres.
Every game is that's 10, and that ties the record. Every game's in overtime, and they win. It's so savage. Okay, let's move on. All right, that's beside the point.
Sorry.
This first tweet, and I didn't even have this idea of reading tweets until I read it because it kind of triggered me. All right. The first tweet says, I love Ellen Pompeo so much. She normalizes the idea of diversity for other white people who don't understand it. So right away. The idea of diversity for other white people who don't understand it. What does that mean? So she goes on to say in the tweet, instead of acting like she should be praised for it, she recognizes that it is normal to want and have diversity and representation. And so this is where I say, who doesn't? There are definitely some fringe people, some nasty people who don't want diversity and representation in society. But I think most of us go day to day, especially people our age. Let me say that. Let me highlight people in their late 20s, young professionals. I don't know anybody our age that like sees someone, everybody just gets treated the same. Every single person gets treated the same way when they walk in the door. It don't matter what you look like.
Right. You're right. But I also think that there are people
I don't even
who
think
are
about
our
it.
age who don't sit in our category, who do say that.
Okay, of course.
Listen, I know people personally on a personal level that have said some pretty outrageous stuff to me, not joking. And those people are in their 50s, in 60s.
So
and
not
it doesn't
20s, but okay.
No. But my point is until you and I and Chad become the 60-year-olds, we're still going to have this issue up until those folks pass away. And I think part of the issue too is that everyone's screaming for this change right now, when the fact of the matter is true change on a cultural level takes 3 generations.
Oh, it takes time, and it takes investing in children. That's what it takes. It's not hard to understand.
I get why people are saying that, because there are, unfortunately,
of course,
and they're vocal about it. You might not know them, Cyril, but they're there.
I don't.
They're there. And I know them because I have to interact with them on a non-personal basis.
Yeah. I think my greater point is when I read, she recognizes that it is normal to want and have diversity and representation. I think what should be normal is to not even have to think about it. I think what should be normal is to, and we have a long way to go, but I do my part by not, like, everybody is just a human being to me. I'm 100% serious when I say that. It doesn't matter who walks in the door. Honestly, a person with a suit and tie could walk in the door, and some 17-year-old disheveled kid could walk in the door. It doesn't matter. Like, they get treated the same by me. Doesn't matter who you are, what you look like. Now, once I start conversing with you, once I start talking to you, if you treat me rudely, if you disrespect me, then we'll start to have issues. But you do
now
not
you're basing your opinion on character and content, and not just skin color or age, or you're rating
you
or
should
basing
be.
that. I hear you, but some people
Because
don't
that's
have
what it
that
should be.
capability yet. Some people don't have
and
that,
that's
and they may
unfortunate.
never had it because they're 60 years old and they're never going to learn anything else, or 80 years old and they're never going to learn anything else.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, we had a neighbor growing up.
Yeah.
We had what growing up?
We had a neighbor growing up.
Ah.
I'll just leave it there, right? We
Definitely
did.
leave it there.
We had
Definitely
a neighbor
leave
that
it
had
there.
some very stout opinions, who
Sure.
was married to a Native American woman and still had opinions.
He
like-
sure was.
like,
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it there.
Yeah, great
So-
neighbor as long as you look
fantastic, as long as you were his skin color.
That's correct.
And even
Yeah.
even if you were his skin color, you still had to do a little extra.
I believe people like that, when they're confronted with good people of who they don't necessarily like around them, then their views can get challenged. But you have to be forced into that.
Sure,
Obviously, people like that are going to go looking for. Sure.
Here's where I'm going to jump on you a little bit, and I'm not
Okay.
trying to challenge you, but where do people get that interaction most?
Forced.
So
In a forced
I ask
setting.
again, where is that forced setting on a day-to-day basis for people? I would say it's
Media?
at their job. No, it's at their work.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it's at
work.
their job. So by doing things like doing better about diversity, you're more likely to meet people who may not be like you,
Yeah,
but you can be like,
right.
oh, you're not a piece
I
of
agree.
shit. So
Right.
I that's where I sympathize with what Ellen
absolutely.
Pompeo is saying. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
like these are one of the ways, and one of the only ways realistically, that people actually get challenges in the workplace.
It's coming
'Cause
from a
when
good place
people
for
leave,
sure, but
It's coming
yeah.
from a great place. I think that
I
she
agree.
maybe
I agree.
misworded it, maybe, or I don't know
Yeah.
if I would have went the same way, but to me, that's the only place
She
that you
gets too
actually get
blamey,
challenged.
but sure, she's got a good heart. She just
Good.
gets too blamey.
Sure, but again, for me, where I hear this, because when I leave work, I'm not going out of my way to find people who are Filipino or African American or Latino. Maybe I should be, I don't know, but I'm not. They're just not in my day-to-day lives. Where they are, though, is at my work. I got everything at my work. And on a day-to-day basis, I judge people based on the content of their character, not the color of their skin, their age, or their ethnicity, right? Or their sex, or fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Any of those things.
Yeah.
So I think when Ellen Pompeo says something like that, I kind of understand how that would be the challenge.
Sure.
You have to find a way to put people in a slightly uncomfortable situation so that they can learn that not everybody of a certain fill in the blank is the boogeyman. So
right. I just
yeah. I guess
I'm a part of that sect of liberals that gets chased away from aggressive. So
sure.
You just gotta be careful.
No,
again, trying to unify, especially when you're trying to unify. Especially when you're trying to unify, sides that are on the two opposite sides, it gets tough. It takes a special sort of skill. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that the verbiage there was so unifying, but hey, she's got a good heart, no question. So
she's come from a good place, and I think ultimately the fact of the matter is if you ask me, the pendulum swings, right? We're going to get a little more softer. We're going to get a little harder. We're going to get softer. We're going to get harder. And the whole goal is to always try to do our best to pull back to the middle as much as we can constantly.
That means when we get old, do better.
Forward. It's exactly what it means. Yep.
Better. And also, we've all seen terrible bosses at work and people who drink the Kool-Aid after not doing so. Don't drink the Kool-Aid when you get up there. Always be willing to get straight in the mud, just like your other guy. Excuse me.
That's not drinking the Kool-Aid. So maybe we have two different terms of drinking.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm saying general terms. Fine.
Well, for me, drinking the Kool-Aid is understanding the company's objectives and goals. And now we're getting way off tangent here, but understanding what those are and how that actually impacts and relates to your employees, your groups. Even if let's say you are the CEO, right? You're responsible for everybody in that company. It's your job to understand how it impacts everything. So you should be drinking the Kool-Aid, and that Kool-Aid should be nothing but good for the company. And that's where I think sometimes people disagree.
All right, well,
because that's where we get off tangent, right? Because not all companies do.
Where I come from, drinking the Kool-Aid is a negative term, but all right, because it means
and my point, Cyril,
because it literally comes from cults where you drink the Kool-Aid and then you die. So
yeah. But
sure,
shout out to
the outcome. Hold on, the outcome there, Cyril. What's the outcome?
Go ahead.
The outcome there is that everybody died. What I'm trying to say is that if you make the right Kool-Aid, we can all have a good fucking time.
Oh, listen, you make a strong argument, and everything I've heard about you and the way that you carry yourself, I hear you. A lot of the times to me, drinking the Kool-Aid means you don't give a shit about who's under you. You just forget about everybody as you move up. You're all buddy with everybody when you're down there in the mud and shit. And then you move up and you're just like, oh, I'm a big person now.
Yeah.
Treat everyone like crap. Like, oh, great.
Listen, at the
way
end
to
of the
change
day,
the system, brother. Go ahead.
I'm a 6 foot tall, 230 pound, slightly overweight man that does not take himself too seriously.
That is seriously my superpower, and I don't understand. I don't understand how more people don't realize that not taking yourself seriously just puts you in the best position you can be in. I don't get it.
It allows you to be super objective.
It allows you to be super objective. It allows you to make friends with whoever the fuck because you don't give a shit, and it just allows you to be more go with the flow and easier to work with.
Yeah.
Just so many people they have a stick so far up their butt. And sure, they're in successful positions, but I would argue these same people, some of the people that I know, are more intelligent, can bring more to the table than where they are. But because nobody fucking likes them, they just, it's like, all right, just leave them in this position and give them as little FaceTime with customers as possible because all they do is just piss them off.
Yeah.
All right, but I digress.
Last one. USA
last
Today.
one real quick.
USA Today. Here's the title of this article written by Ken Alltucker. Drug company price of life-saving opioid overdose antidote more than 600%.
So we're talking about an opioid overdose antidote that the price was jacked up on. Mm-hmm. And I'd be remiss if I didn't try to always plug my my single payer healthcare beliefs here on this podcast. So
get out of here, you liberal.
I see stuff like this and it just makes me upset. And a lot of the stuff that I comment on that I'll tweet out from the Unified account, it's not partisan stuff. It's just stuff like this that I see. It's the little nuggets here in the age of Trump that are buried that actually have real effect on people and are actually telling you the story of what's happening behind the scenes. But all we can do is talk about Trump. Anyways, I just read stuff like this and it just breaks my heart. Like, we're talking about opioid overdose antidotes. We're talking about raising prices on them 600%. Come on.
Yeah, for me, we've had this discussion probably 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and the biggest thing, the biggest factor for me is changing the law when it comes to who owns the patent to a given drug. I mean, to me, this is what
Make
happens
it more competitive
when the patent is held by one company. This is what happened. The same thing happened with
solve this too.
What was that guy's name in New York City? Martin something? Shkreli, right?
Oh, that ad. Yeah.
This is textbook what they did. This is textbook. The same thing happened with that other company. What was the one where the lady
AIDS drug?
Was it eight? No. This one was like
It's just gross.
It was like an EpiPen, wasn't it? It was the CEO of the company. Her mom was like some director of the board of national education, and her father's like a senator, and they helped push a law requiring this drug to be in all schools, just this drug, not any other drug, and then raise the price on them. I'll have to look it up exactly what situation it was, but this happens time and time and time and again, and just sit here and say that we can't get a fucking law passed to figure this thing out.
Especially a country in the middle of an opioid crisis as we are. This is kind of disgusting.
And also, let me just trigger you guys more. Think about this. These drugs that are patented, so much hard work, blood, sweat, and tears go into R&D by some poor souls getting paid 70, 80K that are like have brilliant degrees in like, whatever the heck, research, whatever pharmacology studies, whatever. These are the people that are actually making these patents. But we get a whole bunch of snakes in the fucking grass who realize, oh, if I just spend my money and buy this patent, even though I haven't done a damn thing to make this, I can just jack the price up. Oh, people are telling me that people need this drug to live. Good. That means they're going to have to buy it. Like this is what people think. And it's not that many of them. It's just the Martin Shkreli's and some people of the world.
Well, here's the
gross. And the fact that they own patents is fucking ridiculous. Go ahead.
Here's the thing, Cyril. What I believed would have helped somebody pass a law is the fact that with Martin Shkreli, that was an AIDS drug, correct?
I don't.
Yeah,
all I
it's
remember
something
is
to do with
that-
helping the symptoms of AIDS patients,
Right.
not necessarily.
Oh,
Let me keep
AIDS.
going.
I thought you said
Let me
age.
keep going.
Yeah.
The other example I talked about, I believe, had to do with the allergic reaction of school-aged children. If those two things don't help you get a law passed, let me tell you what won't. Saving the lives of druggies. That's not a good narrative to try to make a law.
I
It's
get
not.
that.
If we're getting down to the nuts and bolts, if you can't do it with an AIDS drug and you can't do it with a school
I get that, but
children's drug,
Really
it ain't
quickly,
gonna
if I
happen
may-
with this one.
Really quickly, if I may, then.
Yeah.
Let me challenge you on what a druggie is.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of teenagers that are struggling and parents
Yeah.
that need this stuff.
Mhm.
So I feel like we stereotype here. Is a druggie? Does that just mean you think we're wasting this on people who shouldn't have it? Like,
I think that if you ask
I don't
people
know,
in the
man.
general public, would they rather save an AIDS patient,
all right, well that's true.
school-aged child, or a drug addict? What would they pick?
And you're right. You're right.
That's my point.
That would be. I don't want to say fake news because I don't like that term, but that'd be misinformation to a degree. That's disingenuous at best. But all right, because we do have a crisis where a lot of young people whose parents, they're not just like some losers that are on the street that just are like begging for money. They're actual people in society whose parents want to see them succeed. They have problems. Sometimes they overdose. That parent wants their child to survive. This isn't just people who are just degenerates in houses. Do you see what I'm saying here?
Well,
Yeah.
if we want to go into the opioid crisis,
Opioid crisis is
on and on and
definitely
on and
not
on.
degenerates in houses for the most part. We're not
No,
talking
no,
about
no,
crack
the
addicts.
opioid crisis to me is
Way different. Rich
and I hate
kids
to,
getting
I
high.
challenge myself on this constantly, but
Yeah.
it's weak people. It's people that have
and that's
succumbed
fine.
to a
And
really
I don't
cushy
necessarily disagree with
lifestyle,
that.
and
Sure.
when they
Look,
hit
I don't
the
necessarily.
wall
Yeah.
and they don't know what to do with their life. They don't know what. I don't have a career. I didn't go to college. I didn't succeed.
Ooh, I don't know about this.
I'm drawing from personal experience here, and that's what I see.
Okay.
And that's what I struggle with. Is like, dude, fucking figure it out. Yeah, guess
Plenty of
what? You might have to
successful
work at
people
at McDonald's for 6 months to make ends meet.
There's plenty of successful people who have also died from heroin, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
It could
don't
be
know that
circumstan- yeah,
that
no, you're
connection
right.
can be just made like that. Yeah.
What
I mean,
I'm saying is, unfortunately, when you look at the bulk
And I
of
would-
these things, it's not super successful people, right?
Yeah,
And I would challenge you to say this. I would say
Yeah.
it's a bit more complicated than that, I think.
I'm not
there's
saying
a lot
it's
of
not.
there's a lot of the
Generalize.
scenario that I said, and so it's I don't want to scapegoat. I don't even necessarily disagree with what you said, Keel, but I don't want to scapegoat. You made it at first sound like, and I was obviously wrong, but you made it sound like that like people were just in like pill dens, like crack dens used to be,
No,
and like
no, no,
nobody
that's
gives a
not-
shit, and like these
Yeah,
are
no, no,
scourge. A lot of these people, like, people still care about them and they want them to be saved, right? Like their kids. But also a lot of these people are like in the West Virginias of the world, you know? And
yeah, there's no fucking work.
there's no
nothing
work.
to do. And
Yeah.
people don't like to admit this, but
Now people need to move. But
Having a job gives people a sense of purpose.
I don't
Purpose,
who doesn't like to hear that? I don't know anybody who would disagree with that.
I think a lot of
Not a
people look
soul.
at that and say, well, I'm more than just my job. And I'm not trying to tell somebody that they're not.
And
more
that's
than
fine.
just
That's
their
not
job.
wrong.
What I'm
but-
saying is that on a day-to-day basis, at least it gives you a sense of purpose, somewhere to be, something
And-
to do, someone
right.
someone
And we can't
depends on you to do something.
And we can't, as human beings, admit that, like, if we're not structured, then we tend to be lazy and we waste time. Of course we do. It's okay to admit that. We all do. We all have days where we didn't do enough and we feel like shit because it's human nature. That's why structure and discipline is helpful for having a purpose. Man, who wants? And you show me who disagrees with that. I'll slap them. That's ridiculous. It's nobody likes to admit that they're lazy, but that's human nature, right? We all are. We'd all rather, when we wake up in the morning, I'd rather stay in my bed fuck, what do you think this is?
Well, what I
But,
find
you know,
interesting is the difference between the person that goes to their job and just looks at it as a, I'm here to do this and I leave, and the difference between a person
that's
that
fine.
feels, well, the difference between somebody who feels empowered to make decisions that truly impact
Yeah,
a
but
process,
not
a
everybody's
company,
gonna have a
a
job
group.
like that. We've built a society where
disagree.
there are have-nots.
I
Okay, the
completely
McDonald's
disagree.
worker is gonna be motivated. Come on, yo.
I think genuinely that I could motivate a McDonald's worker better than most people.
Okay. So, and this is where
And maybe
this
that's
is
coming
where,
from a position of where I'm at. I don't know.
correct.
But what I'm saying, that might be. But what I'm
Everything,
saying
yeah.
is that with good leaders, every job can have a
That's
genuine purpose.
And I agree. That's the key. And I everything I've heard about you, everything I know about you, you're my brother. I've known you a long time. You're a great leader. Okay. And so do I believe that you can do that? Sure. Do I believe that 98% of people can't do that? Yes, they cannot. Okay.
I disagree.
So, all right. Well, I
What
hope
did
that
you
you're
just
right.
say
I
that?
actually hope you're right, Caleb, not me. But
Yeah, again, I'm being a bit facetious, but at the same time, yeah, it might be just a McDonald's employee, but that person typically doesn't work at McDonald's for 35
listen,
years.
I believe that I could motivate that person too, whoever that person is, by actually caring about them, making sure that they know that I got their back and not being fake as fuck, which a lot of people do at work. It's
Yep.
not hard. You actually, all you have to do is care. Legitimately care about your employees, and you're good. You're golden. It's not difficult.
Yep. It's tough,
All
though.
right. That was a good one.
You got to put some elbow grease into it. Can't just show up for work and say I care and then leave.
No,
Well-
you can't. You can't. I don't care if you're not motivated. You have to you need to show up and do what you were expected to do.
What were you told in basic training, Cyril? Fake it till you make it. Act like you like it.
Yep.
Because it just makes it a little easier, and it makes it easier to understand
Honestly,
what's going on, and
just-
it makes it easier to motivate yourself to get to the end.
Just do what you were supposed to do that day. And unfortunately, a lot of these days, I have to do it a lot because I open accounts for people daily. When you're in customer service, part of your job is to not be a fucking negative person. It's not. And so there you go. Now, are you a negative person? Can you not help it? Then go find a job that's not in that area. It's not difficult. Go find another job. Play to your strengths. What are you doing out here if you're a negative person trying to work in banking? No, you're
And
customer
that's-
facing
and
all the
that's
time
why-
wearing a tie and suit. You got to put a smile on, baby. You're not a positive person.
That's why
fucked.
whenever I get somebody, an employee that's in my midst, and I know
Yeah.
that this is not for them, I do everything in my power to encourage and motivate them to get into somewhere that they're going to be happy. For me personally, I'm at the point where I
Just play to
actually
your
look for
strengths.
jobs that aren't
Play to
even
your
within my company, because I know that in the long run, keeping this person for a long period of time is just detrimental to not just them, but the company.
Play to your strengths.
Detrimental to everybody.
Play to your strengths.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Free advice from
We need better leaders.
From good old Cy and Conrad. That's for you guys out there that never listen. But all right, we'll cut this.
Free of charge.
Free of charge.